some kind of interesting feature that often like further inshore, like you have actually deeper systems than when you start to walk, and then usually like you get to sort of the shallow. You get sort of like a slowly vanishing there. And then of course like sort of the so like the when it comes to spatial structure are of course in the currents. Things they create flow. And here in Norway, like sort of the equivalent maybe similar systems here, is Norwegian coastal currents, which is still the three that's along the rich coast and sort of breaks like there. Goes to distribute a lot of the like commenced stocks along the coast, like are ranging, but that didn't like sort of can help to mitigate these effects of the spatial structure by distributions. Yeah, and of course, like the nature factors when it comes to spatial dynamics is something like influence. Of course, species change their distribution in various ways. There's of course this larger scale long-term changes that take various shape. Actually, like sort of the major species that will illustrate sort of the aspect of these distribution shapes quite well. Because we have, for instance, here that is sort of traditionally like a bit of few species, if we say that. So it's like it plays a bit more the role. But it occurs like reaching coast, and that's actually sort of spreading north, of course, with like sort of that it gets more successful. So this most northern area to become it's kind of like this example of this plastic temperature range extension or we also have like some other interesting cases that like invasive species it's not native, it has been used by the Russians in the 60s, I believe. And then it has sort of sequentially spread in reaching waters, and what has sort of established itself in a population like in the Gulf of Norway. So that's the potential to spread. South. Bird-based kind of like a bit stopped. Example of like how invasive species can shape this distribution with spread, so really affects all the ecosystems that it gets into. And then lastly, the newest that's here, I can see is snow crab. Snow crab is also not commonly see. I didn't really involved there. I feel like about 50 years ago or so, where it started to pop up, so Russian side, and then sort of spread. Sequentially more into which waters and so further like this there's support really around the Svalbard there sort of definitely has the potential to it's kind of interesting case because again first everybody believed for invasive species, but at least so far the genetic seems to indicate that it's not really introduced purpose so really long term data. It seems to be actually genetically it's quite distinct from the other population. It definitely doesn't come from the Western Atlantic. It's most closely related to what you have here in the sea. But it's also, it doesn't really have this kind of bottleneck, genetic bottleneck region that could indicate. It seems to be more that might have been sort of by some minor populations slowly spread. So that's kind of some that shows sort of also the complexity of like this kind of spatial dynamics and long-term spatial dynamics that and or sort of the machine also assessment and management. The other big one is of course the seasonal migrations, where we also have some stocks that like really exhibit like very, very classic patterns. One classic example is the Norwegian spring herring that has sort of this huge expansion of its range during the summer for its feeding migration in the sea. Then it contracts in winter, basically like the entire stock of several million tons, like goes into one fjord where they open several months. So it gets sort of like 3-4 million tons stuck in a tiny fjord. Of course, also creates like very interesting dynamics there. And in addition, also they struggle longer term. That's a possibility they like to change like sort of where they overwinter, like from generation to generation. They used to be down there in Lofoten. They have spread over the Tromsø area, being like a bit more to the east for the recent years. Therefore, not expected to provision. So that's just like all this biomass that's coming to the coast and living again. That's of course a big change for the system. Yeah, so that's kind of the bit from for this complexity we're talking about, and if we go a bit more into specific cases of assessments and how it has been dealt with, typically I think a very good example is of course the primary cod. Nature species probably the one we have most research on, where we know quite a bit of it. Basically, Atlantic cod in Norway consists of several stocks. The biggest one is Northeast Arctic cod out there, like the cod stock, where we have also quite a lot of data. Sea cod hasn't been doing that well. So it's still there. I guess in any case, like those two are sort of the offshore stocks that have been surveyed and assessed kind of in a more classic way. Both of them have like a structured analytical assessments in place. Actually, North Sea cod since last year has started a spatial assessment with several stock units within the same stock.
Spatial as in a model with movement or multiple population, multiple assessment units?
Like kind of meta population.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually not entirely sure like how they dealt with it and became very complicated also because they had to like sort of based on some like, genetic information. Some they had to distribute the what before was just one big North Sea store into some sub-stocks essentially. We're trying to deal some with the fact that within the North Sea like they have different fauna area, so they're not fully mixed. And try to account for that. Of course, that becomes very complex. Yeah, in between those two short stocks, essentially what we call the coastal cod. Traditionally, people have just thrown a line and said like coastal cod is like sort of averaging that is not Northeast Arctic cod, that is of 60 degrees. Relatively recently, it's been further substructured into this unit, 62 and 67 degrees. Has received just this year now also assessment with a biomass model for now, based on some like new work that's been done. One further north, the data situation there is a bit better. It's a bigger stock, it's a more relevant fishery, so that one has also like a structured assessment. Then you have sort of the southern areas where there's just more some remnants of coastal cod, where there's some agencies with like basically no real assessment of real management. Again, ultimately, we also know based on genetic analysis is that of course it's not really that big, but like there's like a mixture on the whole post. And if you look at different genes, different haplotypes and genes, like we see sort of like a lot of complexity there, a lot of mixtures between the also offshore stocks, inshore stocks, and then it's essentially like a long way. Some more recent like as of yet. Studies also show like that very well that even within fjords you get this gradients of like different genetic composition. But it's like it's very complex. How do we deal with that in assessment or management? Yeah, we draw a line and we just say that's one story, that's another story.
So you don't deal with coastal versus offshore within a band, basically. Because if I remember correctly, the coastal, as you said, coastal stocks are genetically different, very and complicated.
Yeah. So currently what's done is that there's the overlays can be used to sort of differentiate the two. So based on that data, like the samples that we get, the analysis sort of split both for the survey and then also for the attached to the different stocks. But of course it's not because at least for parts of the year there's like a huge mixture happening Northeast Arctic cod again to sort of this area to spawn, and then also like spawning at the same time, and of course you create also like an actual genetic mixture. So it's difficult. Yeah, like it's working so much with cod, but more with the shellfish. It's the production to it. But like they have a really similar situation with the northern trade. It's made of the most important remaining of the fisheries. There, the situation is sort of, you might call this sort of more gold standard usually when it comes to research. Everything else, the situation is a bit more difficult. And actually, here, stream illustrates that quite well because we don't really account for the coastal stock through assessing currently fish management units or the sea stock that goes all the way down to 62 degrees. And then we have the stock there in the south. Coastal open analytical assessment, essentially like the coastal population are just lumped into this big barren sea stock. And that's unfortunately problematic because from genetic analysis we know again there's a much more complex mixture. There's like gradients. Also, not the way what we see here, like the circles are the skyrock stock. So like the genetic we've seen skyrock stock more or less spreads onto northern Norway. And then just like when you get really to the northeastern part, you start to see like sort of a more mixture between like the Barents Sea and the Skagerrak. And of course, that sort of illustrates that setting up really a solution just like long that into the Barents Sea stock and essentially neglect that that is genetically stock and also the fisheries where they because you have on one side a small scale coastal fishery. The Barents Sea is like a large scale freezer troll fishery that's waste than the coast. And also,
Is this one of those sex changing shrimp? Or like, yeah, which must make for some funky assessments.
Yeah, so much to that because we actually tried to implement that for the
So sex change thing.
Yeah.
Always good when someone tries an option that no one else has tried before.
Yeah. And so that's been quite thinking about there, and I think it's that's quite an interesting one. Yeah, she will come to that after this one. So just regarding the localized analysis based on the data we have, of course, I think also is always more limited. But we have seen recent data on shrimp. We have recently quite exhaustive study in some specific fjords in northern Norway. The background was that there's like two large fjords that were closed for trawling years ago. So there hasn't been any trawling happening there. There hasn't been any shrimp fish there. Compared to most of the other fjords in the area have been continuously fished. So and we were tasked to look into fjords. Basically, the question: could they be reopened for shrimp trawling? What's the status of the ecosystems? What's the state of the shrimp stocks there? So we three surveys where we basically put in as many stations as typically are used to cover the whole coast. So it shows a bit like it was very, especially seen very scale. And that's of course nice because it gave us the possibility to really look at this fjord a bit more in detail. And in addition to the fjords, sort of absolutely compare with we have this fjord there the shrimp fishing is going. But interestingly, what we found is that in terms of both shrimp density and also like important species like cod, the densities were actually very similar overall between the fjords. The main difference is actually more intra-fjord that we have like this 5 scale it's linked to bottom depth substrate and that. So it was kind of a bit surprising that essentially like there wasn't really much of a difference when looking just at the sort of the metrics, the CVPs and all that. But when we looked a bit closer, because we also collected a lot of stomachs, so we tried to look a bit at the diet and to see like are there differences in trophic dynamics. And what we found there is actually in the middle fjord, like is eating much more shrimp, substantially more than the others. When we sort of put all that together to see like what's the predation mortality, what's the consumption in areas, what we essentially found was that in middle fjord, cod seems to be much more dependent on shrimp, respectively, shrimp is much more eaten by cod. This fjord here, you have a slightly different situation that actually the consumption rate is high, but you have so much more cod than shrimp relatively seen, but also like again the consumption ratio becomes quite so it means basically the predation mortality is happening in those two close fjords results in a total mortality that's virtually identical to the total mortality in there. shrimp is being pushed. It's just like on one side it's more fishing mortality, on the other side it's more predation mortality. So it sort of shows that these fields seem to work quite different. Of course, it's we now start pitching again, but we're there. Also having implications on like sort of undermine reloading stock and all that. But like there's quite some complex implications there happening in the relatively fine spaces. Okay, himself to further up. I mean, yeah, actually, we tried to deal with the spatial components more explicitly in the assessment when we went 2 years ago through a benchmark, and also to actually include some of these funky dynamics that those really experiencing with the sex change in particular. So we implemented this two-area stock synthesis model that includes sex transition that I estimated from the data. It's true. Basically, of course, shrimp on pH, so it's length-based, but then to age. It becomes kind of quite complex with the dynamics. But it seems to perform relatively well. There's time steps to deal with the fact that it's short species. And then we have also all the fishing fleets by nation and by so like especially two areas discovered here and the Norwegian deep that we're looking at separate areas will be the same assessment.
But are you modeling movement between areas?
No, it's just
it's two areas with common recruitment.
Yeah, so that's still a one bottleneck that essentially because what goes involved like because of the things. That's sort of like in each source area, and that's a big city area as well. So and that's still like the big research to address. Also because like we change like all the indices, the biomass index and the length frequency distributions that go into the assessment to spatial temporal outcomes in SMTP and the framework that we developed to sort of account those in stocking this for the complex spatial structure. And one thing that we can see there is that if we look at the changes over time, is that it's Norwegian deep areas declined much more than stock right here. So yeah, you see some spatial shifts there. That's the Norwegian deep used to be actually the part where we have more biomass. But nowadays it's this cover up. There's so many things in the Norwegian deep, there's not that much left. Also not much fish. So that's kind of like one example where we try to more space, both in terms of the stock indices, but also in the assessment of having these kind of spatial units, or still relatively coarse approach, but at least the first step. But yeah, always there's kind of some challenges there. And one thing is that all the price and the quota setting, of course, is happening on the stock scale. But like even if we have some of these dynamics and that there's changes that are different components. What you're doing is we're giving an overall TSC and the fishery uses that very big. So there's not really any spatial component in the price or in
Is the F very different between areas, and presumably you're estimating reg dams spatially as well. So is there differences in recruitment spatially? Because those patterns sort of scale, right? They're fairly correlated.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's of course connected, and it's like sort of a it's mostly the northern Norwegian deep that seeing this major decline. There's some parts sort of around the border where we're still like doing more hedging. Say overall, of course, also like the shrimp fishes, they're very cost sensitive, so they're really aiming for the areas of highest densities. That means essentially like those areas where the density is so much, fishing mortality probably goes over zero because nobody is fishing.
Okay, great. One.
So trying to speak up. Yeah. So another thing that was of course interesting with bringing this stock unit concept is that it allows to try to, for instance, for stock components that's like open or see this sprawling ground that is like kind of somewhat connected to also complex. This one has experienced like a stock collapse some decades ago and hasn't really recovered. And so we try to kind of reconstruct this historic stock by basically adding this stock component into the discovery region in the settlement model to sort of see like how that were there. also sort of that the information can be shared once you bring in this spatial component. So that's of course also interesting machine to look at. In the same area, like another interesting example, that also be the different ways is Norway observed, because there we have actually the assessment and management like a lot of space structure. This little rectangle that you see there is which is a separate subunit, also a functional unit, they call it, it's assessed separately, it's managed separately. However, we actually know is that a lot of that is connected, for instance, here again, in order to coast, of course, we have similar dynamics as for the shrimp. The Norway lobster eggs and larvae are transported. So we have connection between those stock units. And what we see, of course, is when we look at the genetic analysis, is there's essentially no difference between those different areas. There's just like the Icelandic stock is somewhat separate, but most of the North Sea seems to be fairly connected. So it seems to be a case where we actually have too much maybe spatial structure, spatial segregation at the assessment side. Because the genetics at least don't really indicate that we should separate it. Most of that is more like from practical reason, structure and all that. Yeah, another interesting case is the king as mentioned before, that sort of spread over 20 years roughly from first appearing fjord and building out the population. Of course, that was also again a challenge, like how do you assess that? It's essentially increases its carrying capacity like year by year.
Very sensitive stock for those of us who work here. We used to have ranking rats.
Just small fisheries.
Yeah.
Small.
Yeah, so it has been taken over to us and then it's
Yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, the way we try to deal with that, like it actually was set up like 50 years ago, so it starts to be a bit something we need to revisit a bit. Basically what we try to do is to have this kind of secure dual surplus production model, where we have the fjords again as separate subunits, like with estimated parameters locally. We have the meters so that we share information. So of course, particularly for the fjords that came last, was kind of important because otherwise you really like the information. That you like pulling information from the fjords where we have the established population. We actually managed to get sort of a more reasonable estimate for this. I think that's kind of also an interesting approach that I haven't seen that much, but actually sort of allows to bring in some spatial structure into the assessment. Quite simple. One thing, and yeah, Johanna will now obviously talk a bit more about that, is the stock indices part. That's been done sort of internally with the chilling, a bit like nowadays maybe not the most fancy. So what we're trying to do is to utilize that information much better than we have, because nowadays we're not just having the full survey that it's based on, but started in parallel to run like a video surveys. We have information from bots. All those data haven't really been used properly. Assessments of what we're trying to do is basically how to integrate that into a common stock index. We have done similar things for snow crab, because there we have essentially the same setup. So we're running surveys with and control stations with boats in addition. And of course, it's very interesting to try to sort of use this new visual methods, also because they're less like to kind of try to integrate information. Like another example is like Iceland scallops. That again, very patchy and they're not so easy to survey. Especially video is the best way to sort of get the good estimates of the stock. Trenching with documentary information, but it's a bit more difficult to quantify. So what we're trying to do is to kind of integrate information and to build also a bridge, because past surveys were basically just stretch based. So to be able to compare those, we need kind of to calibrate using model-based calibration to essentially be able to get yeah, so that's was some glimpses, and it's sort of run it off with a little status of like what they're seeing for understanding, and kind of when it comes to the data side and analysis. I think there has been quite some progress, particularly on the recent years, bringing in like new visual and other monitoring tools. bringing more environmental information and all that. Also, like using, for instance, all the spatial temporal modeling approaches that she's having people being very helpful to sort of account for the spatial dimension much better when it comes to the data. The stock assessment, on the other hand, like I think is still relatively it's kind of baby steps, maybe we could say. There's been some progress trying more stock structure, but overall, it has been kind of difficult to do. And the management, where some like sort of bit spatial components with like spatial closures and things like that, you know, big decisions, essentially space still wasn't really it's something we sort of need to account better for. Yeah, so thanks to all the challenge people and to not use too much time, unless there's like some questions. Yeah.
So I guess the big question is, I mean, when we do our assessments, we assume a lot of simplifying things about dynamics and differences in individuals and space and everything. So I guess for me, the question is like, why do we need space? Are you seeing failures due to a lack of space? What is the motivation for space? Because I think we all acknowledge that there's gross violations of, you know, a one unit stop, but like if it works well and it's worked well for decades, like why do you need it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question. It's sort of like, well, of course, when it comes to stock assessment, it's always this balance of like, not only like doing the maximum, but we need to sort of balance what is like feasible, what makes sense, and find sort of a good optimum there. So yeah, it's of course like a stock by stock question is the lack of space an issue or maybe not? And I guess there's plenty of stocks where it's maybe not that relevant, particularly if you have like on the input data side, if you account for it in a good way, maybe the assessment actually doesn't need to be spatially explicit or anything like that. I think it's maybe a more question with some of the examples at the coast that I showed with, for instance, these fjord dynamics, essentially, like, yeah, for instance, with the shrimp, also maybe with the king crab, where we have dynamics that can be quite different within the different fjords. And of course, if you then just give like an oral quota, at least in theory, that could easily result in that an area is sort of being overfished, where we have actually a downgoing trend, but just because the overall biomass is going up, you get a quota that's going too high. So far, that's essentially like self-regulated, that fishermen, again, they're often cost sensitive. They don't really go to areas that much where they see that the densities are low, but I don't think it's really good management to just rely on the fishermen not wanting to lose money. So I think it's good to maybe have a better approach for that.
Also, a lot of the shellfish don't really move around as much as
Exactly.
you know, the Lephrops fishery description is very similar to red lobsters in Australia, where genetically they're completely the same because the larval stage is so long. Each fishery is managed separately because you worry about localized depletion and stuff like that. So just, you know, it's one of those where life history comes into play. So it should move. I don't know. Sure.
Yeah,
presumably don't walk across the North Sea.
No, and also shrimp, of course, they can move a bit, but they don't really move much. So it's also just a larval stage that creates some movement there. And there's even like we have the common whelk, which is sort of like a snail, and that one hasn't even like a planktonic larval stage. So it's like really localized, and that means you can really easily overfish it if you manage it at a too large scale.
No more questions for Lauren? Okay. So, thank you for having me. Now Fabian provided a very good foundation with already finished research, or maybe not finished, but it's always something you could develop. And I'm gonna bring you along on travel and research that is still a bit in progress. So I'm very open to hear some inputs for this one, and I will. Also, Fabian gave a bit of insights into the red king crab, and I'll get into the depth of it. And as Fabian also said, it was introduced into the Barents Sea in the 60s, and by the 90s it sustained coastal fisheries. And today it has a 60 million euro turnover, and it's just 4 small fjords. But since it's both a valuable and unwanted species due to the risk of further expansion, it is monitored and regulated with two different approaches. So you have this area here where we have a quota, and outside there's open access. But I'm not here to discuss the management of this invasive species. Instead, I'll try to share some of our integrations of how to combine multiple surveys into one index using a spatial temporal approach. And so the king crab is not really data limited, but I'm going to show the idea here is that this could be applied for data limited species. And in the case of the red king crab, it has been surveyed consistently with the annual bottom troll, or except of that 1 year when the boat broke down. And a consistent time series is invaluable for stock assessment, but there's things happens. Maybe your boat breaks down, or you need to expand the survey area or limit the survey, or sometimes it's new activities coming up. Maybe you didn't get the funding you wanted, or the weather is bad. So to have consistent time series, we might need to change the survey design or the ways we use these surveys. And at our institute right now, we are encouraged to pursue more, it's lagging a bit, but okay, more cost-efficient survey methods, such as video. And additionally, in those 4 fjords where we have the red king crab, 2 of them are closed for commercial trawling. So it is wanted to have survey methods that are less invasive, for example, such as video. But when you have this long, really nice, consistent time series, should we just jump into a new method? And what happens with this time series? We risk of like being just another stock that has an inconsistent time series. So that's the goal here, to try to come up with a solution for that. So we have the last 4 years have an overlap, or at least a partial overlap between 3 different survey gears. We have a crab trawl, traps, and this video survey. This makes this is a good opportunity to sort of like test the model based instead of like a very site-specific calibration of these different methods and surveys in a very cost-effective way, just from our computers. And when we started this, we started with a non-spatial GAM using fjords as a discrete factor, and for these fjords, as also Fabian mentioned, they are quite heterogeneous. The bathymetry is different on a very small spatial scale. So when we started this with the initial explorations, we saw that there were definitely some spatial patterns in the residuals, and that's why we moved into to a spatial temporal approach. And I think this is a fairly good example of where this spatial state space models are really, really useful. So here's just an example for, maybe you mentioned I should probably have emphasized it, but the video is one of the only survey that really covers these outermost regions, because they're not easy to trawl and it's not easy to put pots there. And this is just an illustration of like presence absence, or model presence absence, and the variation in like between trawl and video. And it's to illustrate that. It's quite obvious, but like if you include more data, or if you integrate this video index into the trawl, you get a higher spatial resolution. That's the point I want to make with this one. So here we want to continue with the trawl video, we want to continue the trawl time series by moving on with the video. So the idea here is to integrate those two indices into one, and it seems like it's quite consistent. So here's the troll, and it's the video. The video is it's in green here, and you have the troll index, and then the combination, the integrated index in blue. So considering both that it's a temporal alignment of the integrated and also the troll, and it seems quite maybe I wouldn't say robust, but it seems like that we could maybe continue further with an integrated index.
Got a single correction factor for the air. So that's assuming selectivity is this selectivity is the same, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that?
No.
Jeez,
No, but I'll come I'll come back to it. So no.
that's a great model, but I've never seen it work.
No, but that's it's definitely missing something, and that's my next point here, and it's also that this is lumped together both the all sizes, but since we only get size from the video right now, from the video we only get we only get numbers from the video, and we get size and a lot of biological information from the troll as well, but since we only get these numbers from the video, I thought it was a good idea to try to illustrate what we actually could do with the video compared to the troll. But it's definitely not showing the whole picture. Here's size. And currently, there's a minimum landing size. So the fisheries target and fish only males above 130 millimeters of carp's length. This is just the troll data. So there's both spatial variation between fjords, but also similar to the shrimps, there's also some variation within fjords. There's also a decline in this is just mean carp's length. There's also some tendencies of a decline in the size, and we could discuss if the mean length is a suitable size parameter. It's definitely not explaining or accounting for the full story, but it's right now just to illustrate. So I use a similar approach with the length data, but now it's the troll and the trap, because that's where we get the biological information from. And in the scenario of moving from the troll to video, we still need to have some sort of biological information along the way. So that's where the troll or the trap could be suitable to continue with. And so here's the trap. It's hidden. It's in the black here, and it's generally larger crabs in the traps. So we don't know about the video, but that's something else. But and for the troll, it's a bit smaller crabs, and the integrated index fits into somewhere in the middle. But it's fairly consistent, except of Filtanafjord, when it comes to trends, and it emphasizes what you just said, that okay, we need to have some size information as well into this index. But so this is sort of where I'm at the moment, how to combine these two indices of abundance or density from the video and troll, and trap and troll on the other side, bringing the size information into them, because it seems quite essential for now. But just to sum it up, I think so. The red king crab, it's not really data limited, but it's illustrate. We're not using all the data we have, so that's one thing. But it illustrates a point where it could maybe be a suitable way to integrate more or all the available data that we have by using a spatial temporal approach. It's quite cost effective instead of doing this like very um, study design based calibration. So moving into more like a model based, maybe that's a bit of a bold statement, but yeah, it seems to be a very cost effective calibration method. So the plan further is, of course, to try to integrate a bit of the environmental perspectives into this models. And since it is a invasive species on the move, it's essential to maybe have a bit more of that into the model. And also to combine these two indices. And that's where I'm gonna stop. And I hope that you had some inputs and good questions, like how could I proceed with this? Yes. Yeah. I don't think we had, there's no.
But yeah, it's actually it's a good idea
Yeah.
to try to actually
See what you're getting. Yeah.
So all the efficiency also.
Yeah.
Personalities.
Yeah. But maybe it's a silly question. I was thinking that this could be a way of like avoiding this sort of approaches.
Just so we can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, could you go back to the slide with the dots of locations?
Yeah.
Close. This one.
So this is just from 2023. So there's a bit of variation, but for most of the stations they're fixed. But yeah, go ahead.
So, because the next slide shows you're able to estimate the difference, and it seems like there's a lot of areas where you don't have both.
Yeah.
And so how can you estimate the difference if you don't have both observations?
In this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, or there will be no, or like the troll indices will say it's no chance of no or absence of crab here, and it's not comparable, but it adds some extra information by integrating it. That's the idea, but it's not directly comparable. I agree. Yeah. So
Also, the second last slide that you showed with the spatial outline.
this one, yeah.
Is there interaction between areas and years? It's hard to tell from the colors, but or is it just all level spatially? Like several of them seem to have the same hot spots and just
Yeah.
lower.
It could definitely be that the way I'm specifying the spatial temporal effect here is not suitable here. Here it is. This is space, so this is a random walk. But it could be that there's some lag of this hotspot, especially here, since there's pretty much no data here. It's not. I'm a bit reluctant having this area here because it's almost no data here, but. This is a question for you. So these are almost isolated fjords, but they're not. There is some sort of connection here. How could you try to include that part into the modeling? And I thought the most logic way was to keep having this bridge, sort of, even though we don't have the proper coverage for it. Yeah.
I guess like on that note, I think like the people have been developing these barrier meshes for inland of those models.
Yeah.
So I think if you're not using that already, that might be interesting.
I am using a barrier mesh here.
Like another to Andre's point about the differences in gear catchability. I was thinking about the link. With the link modeling, you're using gear as just this offset, but if there's variation across space in that, that's where you want to put the spatial.
Yeah.
Yesterday. And that'd be interesting to see if there's like differences within, even deeper in a fjord, there's more differences in catchability.
Yeah.
So that maybe be a little bit. Useful.
Putting here as a time varying coefficient. Yeah. Good.
Thanks. It seems like there's two ways to do this. I mean, open season combining them. It seems like what you want to do is have two different surveys and have one index, a joint index, a combined index that goes into the stock assessment.
Yes.
Why not just have the two indices go into the assessment and deal with like selectivity in the assessment, which is where it should be dealt with.
Yeah.
So which approach are you proposing and why?
I think that's a very good question. And I was sort of expecting it. So there's sort of two stories at the same time when it comes to this integration. One thing is that for the density, we're talking about stopping the trawling index, and then maybe this is or at least right now when it's just 4 years of video, maybe that's should you then put in this long trawl survey and then this short video survey, and how are you going to weigh that into the assessment, or should you deal with that first? I think that's something we definitely should explore, but so yeah, it could definitely be handled in this assessment approach, but also it feels a bit like you have a bit more control of what you're putting into the model if you're doing it this way. But with the
Yeah, it looks better, but it's, I mean, you know, the rule stuff we always do. Part of the suggestion of the video and the trolls that you're experiments.
Yeah.
Yeah, every management authority likes to stop the gear and install a new one, and that's history has revealed that leads to
Problems.
and costs.
Yeah.
Not to mention problems.
But I think maybe the length index and the density index could be treated as two different into the stock assessment. Yeah, absolutely.
So nice to follow.
Yeah.
Are you fit so like that plot where you show the difference between this one?
Yeah.
Are you fitting two SBM TMB models separately and then calculating this, or are you jointly modeling the two survey data sets?
So for just this one, it's two separate models. But for the others, it's like for this one, it's two separate and an integrated. But this was two separate. I am not sure if that's
You're using the two data sets to inform essentially the spatial density field integrating prospectively. So the two data sets inform the same thing. Log density in space.
Yeah, I got it was a question, but I'm not sure if I really understood the question. I think I made it maybe a bit difficult to understand my ideas here. This is to prove one point, and the integrated one. Could you rephrase the question, maybe, so I'm not bubbling?
There is one. There's the true state of nature is some density of animals in space.
Yep.
Like you can estimate that twice using two different models, two different data sets. They're trying to estimate essentially the same thing, or you put the two data sets together, estimate just one estimate.
Yep.
So which one do you?
I'm doing here. I'm doing both.
Which
Which one I want to do is the integrated one, joining the two data sets, predicting one true density.
It really just depends on, when I look at that model up there, which is an integrated model, right?
Yep.
You're assuming that you've got first thing, I don't think you've got a time dependent smooth everything. There's, that's a very stiff model. There's a lot of assumptions about what is common between surveys when you do that.
Yeah.
if there's any, if what you're seeing in the video, true population is a distribution, but the question is, is the video observations equivalent?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's an offset.
Yeah.
One offset. So you're saying that the smoother, for example, which of course is a combination of the population depth, but also observation process, right? And there's so you're making some, and this goes to Cole's point, making some quite strong assumptions about.
I agree.
Within the integrated assessment, essentially getting one, you're doing one parameter in life is good.
Yeah, I have had like the smoother with the gear specific, but I had some issues. It's not a very large data set, so that's the better model. Yeah,
Well, good.
it's okay. Yeah.
But the more important is it
Guilty. What?
does the fit the joints that. So if you look at like
Yep.
significant residuals, it's really good for one data set and it's really poor for another. Then I have major concerns about
The integration.
stiffness or flexibility.
Yeah, it passed model validation. Yeah, but I think I have still more to explore there. I think it could have been a bit too limited, but yeah, it passed model validation.
Do you think it sizes from videos eventually?
I hope so.
How would it be? That's like one of the important things. That's the.
But that could be like for what you talked about earlier, having pairing the video and the troll, and then you could have the biological information from what you actually see. So that would be absolutely ideal. But I don't know if we have money or plans to actually do that kind of calibration. But it should be quite good. Yeah. It's 2 cameras. I don't know.
It's just partially overlapping, so
Yeah.
there's 2 cameras, basically 2 different trend or 2 parallel transects, and there's some overlap in the middle, but not complete overlap as of now.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, like they're trying to push us now towards using this kind of automated downward re-import that has just like downward camera, so that also changes the washing again. So that's also part of the complexity that they want us to transition over to another new gear that is in a way also image based, but a different type of image. So it complicates the whole story also.
Yeah.
You get the file from it?
Nah. Troll top.
Yes, chalk top, both the chalk top for the Bible.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for a lot of good inputs and critical questions. That's very appreciated.
And this is great. We're glad for you.
Yeah.
Ichi, you know where? Right away. Here.
Thank you, everyone.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah.